Hey, LarkenRose here. I've been sweating my butt off working, so if I look like a caveman, even more than usual, that's why. Reality exists outside of your head. Reality doesn't ask you what you wish were true and then decide what to make true. I find that I often point out some aspect of government and propaganda and authoritarian indoctrination and all that, and then the ruling class, quickly thereafter, is nice enough to just hand me a perfect example. And that just happened again. So I just made a video, wasn't that long ago, a couple weeks maybe, I don't know, I can't count days anymore, where I pointed out that if you assume certain things about government, if you assume good intentions of those in power and you think, well, they're trying to stop drug abuse and they're trying to stop scary criminals from coming into the country and all these things, if you assume good intentions, then if you watch what they actually do, it doesn't add up. It doesn't make any sense. But people are so scared of the idea of the people in power being literal psychopaths that they try to talk themselves into, well, even if I don't agree with their policies, they're trying to do right. Or maybe, oh, this policy is really dangerous, but I guess he believes in it. Well, we just had a perfect example where if you were doing the wishful thinking routine and trying to believe that the people you voted for give a damn about justice or anything they talk about, you cannot explain this. And I think a lot of people who voted for Trump are now coming to that realization. So, if you believed that when Trump was running for office, he cared about corruption, and he didn't talk about it that much, but his followers, lots and lots of them, constantly talked about the predators and all the pedos in Hollywood and politics and all that, of which there are plenty creepy psychopaths. And lots of people, they're going to be arresting people. In fact, it's already happening. The white knights are like preparing to arrest all the crooked, evil, predatory Democrats. And then he came along and said, we're going to release the Epstein. And Pam Bondi is out there saying these horrible crimes, we're going to release it all. And Kash Patel is out there talking it. Bongino's talking about it. They put on the big press conference thing, basically a photo op, a publicity stunt. We're handing out all these folders that say the most transparent administration in history. This is round one of the Epstein information. We're telling you all about it. And you all know Pam Bondi talking about, oh yeah, I have the evidence on my desk. Then 2 seconds later, well, they didn't give it to me. The New York FBI, they're in big trouble. Like, they didn't give it. What do you mean they didn't give it to you? You're their boss. Can't you, go there and get it? But you hear all this noise, and, now there's delays, and, now we have to look at this. Well, maybe some has to be redacted. Now, as I'm sure most of you have heard, no, there wasn't a list. There wasn't a client list. Epstein wasn't blackmailing people. He never had a client list. None of that ever happened. And he committed suicide. You weirdos. Why would you think anything else? Says Pam Bondi. And in an interview I just saw, I don't know if it was today or yesterday, somebody had a follow-up question about the Jeffrey Epstein thing. And Trump himself is, why are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? We have what's going on in Texas. Why are you still talking about that? If you still imagine that they have good intentions, you are as blind can be, and you're trying to be blind. Because you cannot match up their words and their behavior with anybody who had good intentions at all from the beginning. What you can match it up with is exactly what I described, not only about Trump, but about everybody who runs for office. I mean, I described it, I forget how many years ago. It's coming up on almost 2 decades when I wrote How to Be a Successful Tyrant. I'm working on getting the second edition in print still. And I described the way they do these things. They're going to betray you. They're going to stab you in the back. But they're not going to tell you, hey, we stabbed you in the back the day after they stab you in the back. They're going to say, oh, well, it wasn't ideal. We didn't like this. There's been delays. Other people are causing problems. But here's a little bit. We're going to do a little bit to sort of pacify the angry mob out front with pitchforks and torches. We'll give you a little bit and say we're going to give you more. Don't worry, we're absolutely going to give you more. We're going to get to the bottom of this. Oh, something else went wrong. Oh, now there's this. Did you guys forget about it yet? You guys are still talking about that? What's wrong with you? From the beginning, they were never going to release the Epstein evidence. And some of us told you that. I certainly was not the only one. Plenty of people were saying, you know how much Trump and Epstein were buddies, right? He flew on his frickin' plane. You've seen the creepy comments he's made talking about his friend Jeffrey Epstein. Or maybe you haven't because you've tried really hard to not know. If you just look at Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, and Trump, you can throw Bongino, you can throw a bunch of their clowns in there, and the order of what they did, this is classic con man, deception, manipulation, just evil crap. Where there's always excuses, there's always delays. If they meant well, I mean, Patel was out there saying, oh, there are truckloads of evidence, and I have it. Bondi saying, I have it on my desk. We have truckloads, and we have all this evidence. Oh, no, there wasn't evidence. We didn't mean evidence. And by the way, he wasn't blackmailing anybody. And so, yeah, that was all. Okay, his girlfriend was convicted of sex trafficking. To whom? None of the people were prosecuted that she did that for. And now there's not a list of them. There aren't clients. There isn't any more evidence that you need to know about. So says all Trump's clowns. Yeah, you have everything you need to know. Rewind a few months. Don't worry, we're going to give it all to you. Now, not only do you have everything you need to know, but why are you still talking about it? There's much more pressing issues. You were supposed to have forgotten about that by now, because we did our song and dance bullshit to cover up absolutely heinous crimes, and you idiots were supposed to forget about it. That is how they viewed you the whole time. That is how Trump viewed you the whole time. That is how all his clowns who put on this great show, we're going to get in there and we're going to end the corruption and blah, 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 blah. None of them ever meant it from the beginning. And you know that. You know that. You absolutely know what I'm telling you, even if you're trying really, 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 really hard not to admit that you voted for this evil, predatory, corrupt, scumbag, abusive, just evil piece of crap. Now, that's not to say the other people running weren't also evil pieces of crap. That's kind of how the game works. They make sure there's always an evil piece of crap who's going to be a puppet of the machine on the throne, on the pretend throne, on the puppet throne, like the White House doesn't really run much of anything. But they need a puppet who's going to do their bidding and cover up what they need them to cover up and funnel money where they need to funnel it. They're going to do that. So, oh, well, they would have voted for... It doesn't make any difference. If you voted for Trump, you voted for Biden. If you voted for Biden, you voted for Trump. They go back and forth. They take turns. I've explained this before. I won't go into that all again, because hopefully I don't need to. You voted for the machine. A vote for Biden was a vote for the machine. A vote for Trump was a vote for the machine. If anybody's still denying it, if you just look at the Epstein example, you're just gullible and utterly clueless. Because let's say, talk about a ridiculous hypothetical, if Trump decided to appoint me, I'm the new head of the FBI. Like, I'm somebody who actually thinks that the crimes that Epstein did were absolutely heinous. And if I was appointed head of the FBI, the best case scenario that they could hope for is, well, I would have been killed. Because the moment they found out what I was going to say out loud, if I had the access to look into it, they would absolutely kill me. If they didn't give me any access, despite me being the head of the FBI, I'd come out and say, they didn't give me any access. Obviously, they're hiding stuff, like if they're going to hide it from me. But that's not what Bondi said. That's not what Patel said. They didn't turn on Trump and say, he's not letting us get to the bottom of this. They did their little Stoogge game. Do you think there was any prayer in hell of them getting those positions if early on they weren't interviewed and asked, so you're going to be a good little stooge, right? You're going to do what we say. You're going to cover up what we tell you to cover up. You're going to lie your ass off the way we tell you to lie your ass off, Pam. You're going to play this part like you give a damn about the victims of these heinous crimes, and you're going to tap dance and you're going to pretend that righteous indignation when you don't give a damn about the victims of Epstein and Trump and a whole bunch of other just creepy, evil bastards. You don't frickin' care, but, Pam, if you want glory and power, we'll put you there as long as we know that you're a good little puppet who will say what we tell you to say. And we'll go out there with a straight face and lie your ass off about heinous crap to cover up for some of the worst people in the world. If you do that, yeah, we'll give you that job. If not, no. There's no way in hell you're getting anywhere near there. So all the people, and I'm going to try to be sympathetic, all the people who, well, the way she talked and the way Kash Patel talked, he is a rebel and he's going to really mix things up. Patel is Trump's bitch, and Trump is the ruling class's bitch, and nothing else. They are absolute despicable fucking cowards. And if you haven't figured that out by now, you don't want to know the truth. Because it's right in your face. They're not people who meant well and tried really hard and couldn't get things done. There were some of them in 1994, the Republican Revolution. You know how I know? Because they got elected, having never been in public office before, and they came out and said, we can't do anything. We actually wanted to do the things that we said we wanted to do. But we can't. That's not how the machine works. And they came out and they said that in public. That is what it would look like if Patel or Bondi or Bongino or the rest of those damn clowns, if they actually had a tiny shred of principle or gave a damn about the truth or justice or any of that stuff, that is what they would be doing. They'd be coming out and saying, this is horrible. I wanted to be a force for justice, and I can't because the machine... And you can say, well, they might have been threatened with death and whatever else. Okay, if you threaten me with death, unless I go out and lie for child molesters, you're going to have to fucking kill me. Not Bondi, not Patel, not Bongino. They'll go out there and cover for absolutely despicable, heinous human beings, lie to your face, and then accuse you when you're not satisfied with what you know is absolutely bullshit. And so it's a test. It's one of those things that, I've said a million times. In the big picture, in the long run, when evil is this ridiculous that tons of people are watching and going, what? Now you're pretending? Oh, Epstein wasn't a thing. Why are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? We're the most transparent administration ever. We're going to give you all the information. Just kidding, there is no information. Why are you still talking about that? Are you not humiliated yet if you voted for Trump? Not just, oh, he didn't do policies the way I totally would have wanted. He treated you like shit. If you voted for him, he viewed you as gullible dupes that he could manipulate and trick and use and then stab in the back and lie to. And now you know that. You absolutely know that unless you're closing your eyes as tight as you can because you don't want to accept reality and you don't want to accept what he is. If you look at what they're saying now and what they're doing, it's ridiculous. It's so ridiculous that tons of people are talking about it, thankfully. But what I was saying is, in the long run, the big picture, there's actually something good when the corruption and the dishonesty is just this freaking obvious. You got stabbed in the back. You got betrayed. You got duped. No, it wasn't that, well, Trump was bullied and he couldn't fix things and then he was lied to and then so he told us stuff he thought was doing it. No. That does not match what he is saying and what all his little puppets are saying. What they're saying and what they're doing was absolutely calculated from the beginning when they had their little photo op. Most transparent administration in history. They knew right then and before. They were never going to tell you what happened. They were never going to give you that evidence. And they knew that a lot of you would be appeased by the mere promise that eventually they would. And then they hoped you would sort of forget and pay attention to other things so that when later they go, oh, no, there is no other evidence. There's nothing more the public needs. And why are you still talking about it? That was calculated from the beginning. Now, those of you who are familiar with how sociopaths function and toxic narcissists, some of this is going to be familiar. Because the planned out manipulations are a very predictable pattern. For those of us who know how that works, which is why I explained exactly this. And plenty of other people did too. Certainly not the only one. This is how they function. And you cannot pretend that if Trump actually gave a crap, and if Bondi and Patel and the rest of those clowns actually gave a crap, you cannot pretend that what you've seen and heard is what you would have seen and heard if they cared. It's not, and you know it. They stabbed you in the back. They were lying to you from the beginning. And if they can do that to you, something that obvious, evidence of just heinous crap, like as high up as you can get, corrupt stuff, extremely likely Epstein was just an agent of Mossad and kissing Israel's butt. What a coincidence that so many American politicians, for some reason, always do the bidding of the ruling class of Israel and the warmongers over there. Why might that be? Well, you don't need to know. There's no evidence of that. There's no evidence that Epstein ever blackmailed anybody with this. That's what your new political savior is willing to say to your face now. After running on the campaign with all his little puppets, we're going to get to the bottom of this and there's going to be arrests. So many corrupt, horrible, child molester Democrats who do all these satanic things. There's going to be arrests all over the place. The white knights are going to, everything from the Q version, which was just patently ridiculous, to the version that most Trump followers fell for, which is only a little bit less ridiculous. And the whole time, some of us were saying, none of that's going to happen. He is the establishment. He always was the swamp. And if instead of listening to the con man's bullshit, you watch what he does and what he did last year and the year before that 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 and going back to before he was even in office, you would recognize what he is, you would know what he was doing, and you wouldn't have fallen for it. And so I guess that's enough to rant about that because it really is. I said I was going to try to not rant about Trump. This isn't even about Trump. This is about analyzing how the ruling class treats you. And there are things that they do, and the left and right do it. The left and right are two sets of puppet of the one ruling machine. But if you analyze it assuming good intentions, you can't make it add up. And the Epstein thing is just a fine, glaring example of that. Now they're telling you, literally, oh, it's ridiculous that you're still talking about it. After we delayed and delayed. This is just classic sociopath. Oh, I'll tell you later. We'll talk about it later. Hey, how can you explain this, really creepy evidence that we just got? No. I got to do something, but I'll explain it later. And later it's like, oh, yeah, you misunderstood. There's something about that. You got to ask this guy or look into that, but I'll tell you more later. And then, are you still talking about that? Oh, there's a severe weather warning, I'm sure. See if I get hit by a tornado while I'm doing this. It's the NSA sending a tornado after me. Will you shut up? Thanks.
National Weather Service. Tornado warning in this area until 5:45 p.m. Eastern Daylight Saving Time. Take shelter now in a basement or an interior room on the lowest floor of a sturdy building.
Okay, so as it happens, I'm in a basement. And I'm right next to a huge steel structure that I built. It's tornado proof. So we'll see what becomes of that. Anyway, if the tornado doesn't whisk me off to Oz, I guess that's enough for that video. It's just, you have to be able to admit what you fell for if you have any prayer of not falling for it over and over and over again. And if you don't know by now that if you voted for Trump, you fell for an absolute slimeball con man, I don't know what to tell you. He could not have made this more obvious how he views you. You're just another stupid tool to use for his agenda and his power and his glory. And most of that he gets by way of kissing the ass of the machine above him. It's not like he's really in charge. But maybe now you understand why so many people said, don't vote that guy. He's a complete slimeball and will stab you in the back and do all these nasty things to you. And he uses people right and left. He doesn't care about you. He'll put on a show. He'll put on his act to get the deal he wants. And then he'll just leave you in the dirt. And he doesn't give a crap about anyone but himself. Lots of people were saying that. Now you have proof staring you in the face. Are you going to accept it and deal with it and then not fall for it again? Or are you going to still pretend that Donald Trump gives a crap about truth or justice or freedom or any of the stuff that you were silly enough to believe he cared about?